Hey guys, Alex here. We're back for another video, and this one's going to be specifically on my for sale by owner scripts. You might have heard some of my for sale by owner live calls, which I've been posting lately. This is the exact script that I basically use. I don't have this in front of me anymore because I've made enough calls where I've internalized it. I know what questions I'm going to ask. I know how to do my introduction. I know how to close. I'm familiar with what objections that I get usually. So I don't have this in front of me anymore, but in the beginning I did. So I'm going to recommend that when you're making calls, if this is this type of script that you want to use, or any script that you use, there's a bunch of scripts out there, have it in front of you in the beginning until you internalize it, practice it, and yeah, so let's get into it. If you haven't seen my for rent by owner script, might want to watch that one first. I get into pretty good detail as far as each part, which I probably won't get into too much detail with this one, because it is pretty similar to the other one with some small nuances, which I'll get into. But yeah, also side note, I'm not going to upload this. I'm not going to email anyone this script. Here it is. I'm going to zoom in so you can read it word for word. Please don't ask me to send it to you. I'm just probably not going to respond. All right, so the first part is the introduction. Here, I'll get into the three stages. So the first stage is the introduction. This is where you want to position yourself as the investor. Again, this is probably the most important part because it's going to dictate the rest of the call. You want to nail the first 20 seconds of your call, and you want to position yourself as someone who can buy their home, who can pay full retail for it. You just had some questions about the house to see if it's a good fit is all, right? That's going to position yourself to get permission to ask questions. And here are your questions. This is the second part of the script. It's the qualification stage. I'll get into these questions as well. And then the last part is the close. And I'll get into that one as well. So the intro. I send a text always. And I did another video on that, so I'm not going to get into why I do it, but this is basically when I text them. Again, it's the same thing. I basically say, I'm an investor. We purchase properties in the area. We ideally like properties that are in good condition. We've offered full retail in the past. At this time, if it's okay, I just had some questions about the house to see if it's a good fit. Boom. That's it. That's going to lead you to the next one. Usually they'll respond with okay, or that's fine, or are you a realtor? And then you can get into whatever you needed to get into to get to this next stage. But that's usually a smooth way to get to the next stage, which is asking your questions. And the first question I like to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, in your opinion, how would you rate the condition of the home? There's different ways you can ask it. You can say, are there any repairs that need to be done on it that I should know about? But I like to get into the condition of the home. It's a lot less threatening. Most people like to talk about their house. It's a good way to get them talking. It's a good way for you to start listening, and it's a good way to build rapport, right? So that's the first question that I ask. Generally speaking, I want to work with houses that are 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 condition. Even 6. If it's 5 or 4 or 3 or whatever number they give you, I rarely ever get those numbers because, again, the numbers that I get are for sale by owners off Craigslist and Zillow. These are free leads. Most of the time they're in good condition, which I like. But yeah, we want to work with houses that are in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 condition, ideally. All right. And then this is another reason why I like to ask this question up front is because it's a great way to transition into the most important question, which is what their motivation is. So once they talk about their house and it's in good condition, they give you a 7 out of 10. Great, it sounds like a nice house. I mean, that's what we expected to hear. It's in a good neighborhood that we like to be in. Just curious, is there a particular reason that you're looking to sell? Boom, and then they'll share their reason. All right, and let me get into this too, because notice how in the other script I asked this question up front: would you consider doing a lease purchase or other terms with the for rents by owners, which I explained in that video? In this part with the for sale by owner, I saved this till the end. The main reason, because I want to know their motivation. If somebody gives me a no to a lease purchase up front and I don't know their motivation, I'm pretty much dead in the water, right? But versus if I find out their motivation first, let's say they move to California, and I'm in Boston. They move to California. They're all the way across the country. They have this other home. They don't sell. They'll rent it out. They're paying 2 mortgages. Whatever the reason, like if it's a good prospect that I think will be open to terms, assuming the home doesn't sell. Mainly, here's the key: as long as they don't need all their equity today to go buy another house, then there's somebody that I can potentially do business with follow up, assuming it doesn't sell, right? So I would never know that if I don't ask this question up front. So you always want to get their motivation. Ideally right after you find out about the property. It's a good way to transition with the script I just gave you. All right, so always find out their motivation. That's how you're going to know if they're a good fit or if there's a problem that you can actually help solve with your solution of lease purchase. All right, the next question I simply ask, is the home currently occupied? Again, there's different ways you can ask it. Are you currently living in the home, or is it vacant? I just ask, is the home currently occupied? From there, they'll tell me, no, it's vacant, or there's a tenant, or we're still there, right? You want to find out if they're still there. And if they're still there, usually I'll say something to the effect of, well, we have a pretty good network of realtors and investors in the area, so are you going to be local, or are you moving out of state? You want to find out where they're moving to next. So that's a good way to ask that. You want to find out when they're looking to move. Again, this is going to determine a little bit more about their motivation. Maybe what takes them there. If you want to get that deep into it, you can ask them great, that's a great area. What takes you there? And again, that's gonna hone in more on their motivation, more on their time frame for moving, and if this is going to be somebody that's a good fit to do business with. From there, I like to get into what the seller thinks the home is worth today, and then what they're looking to net for it, assuming there are no agent commissions. I want to find out what they want to walk away with at the end of the day, okay? What their bottom line is, for obvious reasons. You want to find out what price you're going to buy it at. And once you get that number, it's a great transition from there to go into the lease purchase question. Well, great, Mrs. Seller. I understand you want to get to your number of 600, assuming the house is in 9 out of 10 condition like you shared after we viewed it. Would you be open to doing that on a lease purchase or other terms? Right? So this is a great place to ask this question. You're either going to get a maybe, you're sometimes going to get a yes, most times you probably get a no. When you get a no, an ideal thing to do is to find out why. Like, all right, just curious, is there a reason why that probably wouldn't work for you? And find out their reason. A lot of times they just say no because it's their natural instinct. They just say no because they're confused. They want to learn more about it. Most times you'll probably either get a no or a maybe. Very rarely will you get a just straight up yes. But if you get a maybe, it's a good opportunity to practice your lease purchase script. And a lease purchase script would sound like, so basically what is a lease purchase, right? You would say something to the effect of, it's a situation where you lock in your price today. We agree on a price today. We agree on a future cash out sometime in the near future. And then in the meantime, we would take over any mortgage, any interest, any taxes. We would take over all responsibilities to do with the home, just as if we owned it. That includes the maintenance and the repairs. And again, you'd receive your cash out sometime in the future, basically like a delayed cash sale at the end of the day. All right, that's a good way to explain it. If you want to go a little further, you want to follow that up with another question so that you're in control of the conversation, right? Whoever's asking the questions is always in control. So after I say that statement, I'll say, it's a pretty good fit, assuming you don't need all your equity out today. So is this a situation where you might need the equity today to go buy another house, or could you wait a little bit, right? And then they'll answer that, and you'll go from there, right? But you always want to try to ask a question with another question because it gets you in control of the conversation. When you get a no, the last thing I ask is, so if you were to have a buyer that can cash you out within a year or two, had a substantial amount down, you wouldn't be interested. That wouldn't interest you. And if they say no, I pretty much just I end the call politely. All right. The remaining parts, once you get to that stage, you're in a good position. The remaining part of the call is to get the financing. You want to know their mortgage. You want to know what their payment is. You want to know if they're current on their payment. All these things. So the way you get that is you follow up with how we would structure the remaining terms, since we've already talked about the price. How we would structure the remaining terms, Mr. Seller, would depend on any current financing. So let me ask, is there currently a loan, or can I assume that there's a mortgage on the property? And if they say no, then you know that they own it free and clear. That's good to know. If they say yes, you can follow up with, great, and approximately what's the payment on that, just to see if we can cover it each month. And then they'll give you a number. Great, does that include the taxes and the insurance? They'll say yes or no. Great, can I assume that the payments are current? Usually yes, right? And then if you want to find out the loan balance, this is where people are usually kind of reserved. They don't want to give out how much they owe, but it's important to know for obvious reasons. If they owe close to what the home is worth, then you'll need a longer term in order for the equity to catch back up. If they have quite a bit of equity, then it's a good situation for lease purchase. If they're underwater, again, you'll need a longer term. So a good way to ask that, generally speaking, is there a rough ballpark as far as how much is still owed on it? Or you can be a little less like an easier way to kind of get an answer out of them. Great, we would just need to know approximately how much equity. So do you have roughly like 50% equity in it, or do you owe close to what it's worth? There's different ways you can ask it, but try to figure out what works for you to get the loan information. And side note, you don't need that information right up front, right? Usually this is your first call with them, your first time you speak to them. they're naturally going to be a little more reserved, at least where I am. I'm in the Boston and Massachusetts. People people think a lot of things are scams out here, so it's a little tougher maybe for me. But again, most people, I don't get that information up front. I want to find out if they're open to a lease purchase before I ever get that information. And if they give me a no, I'm okay with it. I said no problem, and then I take the next step, which is the close. And the close is basically if I've gotten all the information that I need in this step, then I'll go ahead and send them a couple options, right? And then if I don't get all the information in this step, then I will send them a document explaining what I do. I'll send them an email for my company email so that they have my website and my company information, what we specialize in, just to build a little more credibility, just to build a little more comfort and trust. And then we'll set up a follow-up call if they have any questions, and then I'll send them a couple of options at that point. So the close depends on how much information I get, but that's basically the steps of the call. Again, you have your introduction, which I think is the most important part of the call. You want to nail the first 20 seconds. And then your qualifications. Sometimes they'll give you this information just from having a fluid conversation with them. You don't have to go step by step, right? It's naturally it leads this way, for me at least, but sometimes you have to go in different orders. So just listen and have a pen on you, write down information, get through these questions, and then you want to lead to the close, to where you're sending them an offer, a couple options, and potentially book an appointment to go see the house. All right, so this is my FSBO script. I wanted to keep this video under 15 minutes, so sorry if I went kind of fast there. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Let me know if you have any other ideas, things that you think I might be missing, any objections you're getting. Maybe I can give you some answers that I get from my objections. Just anything I can do to help. Feel free to reach out. Keep in mind, I have live seller calls once a week. If you want to get access to those, be sure to hit the bell so that you're notified, because those go private within 24 hours. All right, so that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching.